Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a literal masterclass in logic. I want you to think of yourself as a detective, but instead of investigating physical crime scenes, we're going to investigate intellectual ones. Have you ever listened to an argument and just felt in your gut that something was off, but you couldn't quite put your finger on exactly why? Well, today we're going to give you the exact vocabulary to diagnose those bad arguments. We are going to learn how to treat faulty logic like a crime scene, dusting for the fingerprints of what philosophers call informal fallacies.
Okay, let's quickly check out our syllabus for today. We're going to empower you to spot bad reasoning by breaking down 4 major categories: fallacies of relevance, weak induction, unwarranted assumptions, and diversion. By the end of this, you are going to have a complete toolkit for spotting faulty logic. All right, let's jump right into Section 1. What exactly are informal fallacies? So, to really understand fallacies, you need to know that reasoning can go wrong in a couple of different ways. Sometimes the actual structural math of an argument is just broken. That's a formal fallacy. But informal fallacies, they're a lot sneakier. In an informal fallacy, there's a fundamental disconnect between the evidence being offered and the conclusion being drawn. The structure might actually look okay on the surface, but when you look at the content, the meaning, and how it relates to the real world, the whole thing just falls apart. And to spot these, you usually need a little bit of background knowledge. To illustrate this disconnect perfectly, let's look at a hypothetical political campaign. Listen to this quote and really think about the logic being presented here. Someone says, "I don't think Ms. Timmons will make a good mayor. I've got a bad feeling about her. And I've heard she's not a Christian. Furthermore, the last time we had a female mayor, the city nearly went bankrupt." Notice how the speaker states a clear conclusion: don't vote for Ms. Timmons, and then offers a laundry list of what they're presenting as quote-unquote reasons. But let's pause and ask ourselves a really critical question here. Does belonging to a specific religion or sharing a gender with a past mayor have absolutely any logical bearing on someone's qualification for office? The answer, obviously, is no. A bad feeling is just an emotion. A candidate's religion is completely irrelevant to their competency to govern a city, and tying her to a past bankruptcy simply because they share a gender, that is a completely spurious connection. This single argument is an absolute goldmine of informal fallacies because literally none of the reasons logically support the conclusion. Which brings us to Section 2, fallacies of relevance. This is the bucket where we categorize those sneaky arguments that offer evidence that seems super important, but actually isn't. In this category, the evidence feels incredibly relevant because it preys on our likes, our dislikes, our fears, and our compassions. But logically speaking, it misses the mark entirely. We're going to look at 3 heavy hitters today: the appeal to emotion, the ad hominem attack, and a specific flavor of ad hominem known as tu quoque, which is essentially the hypocrisy trap. Let's start with the ad hominem attack. Translated from Latin, it literally means toward the man. And man, we see this everywhere, right? It's a form of sloppy, associative reasoning where we let our negative feelings about a person completely cloud our judgment of their actual logic. So instead of dismantling an opponent's idea, the arguer just attacks the opponent's appearance, their intelligence, or their past. Consider this example from a hypothetical city council meeting. One member argues against another's solar energy project by saying, "What she failed to mention was that she has been arrested twice for protesting. She's a traitor and a liar. Any project she espouses is bad for the city." Notice what's totally missing here? Any actual discussion of the solar project. Calling someone a traitor and a liar based on past protests is purely an emotional manipulation tactic. It is definitely not a logically valid counterargument to an infrastructure plan. But hey, what about perceived hypocrisy? This is the tu quoque, or you too fallacy. Imagine a father who smokes cigarettes, catches his teenage daughter smoking, and he tells her to stop because it's dangerous. The daughter might instantly fire back, "Well, you do it too, you're a hypocrite." But does his hypocrisy actually make his argument invalid? Actually, scratch that. It doesn't at all. Think about it. The dad's firsthand experience with the terrible dangers of addiction might actually make him a more trustworthy source on the subject. His personal failure to quit smoking has absolutely zero bearing on the objective medical truth that smoking is harmful. Hypocrisy just doesn't logically invalidate the truth of a claim.
Moving right along to Section 3, fallacies of weak induction.
In these cases, the arguer is actually using premises that are relevant to the topic, but the evidence is simply way too weak to firmly establish the conclusion they're trying to reach. Here's our visual roadmap for this section. We are going to look out for 4 specific types of weak induction: hasty generalization, bias sample, appeal to ignorance, and false cause attribution. All of these essentially involve taking a tiny little sliver of reality and trying to stretch it over a massive conclusion. This brilliantly illustrates the nuanced difference between two very similar, very common errors. First up, we have the hasty generalization. This is purely a problem of sample size. For example, saying a restaurant is universally terrible just because you had one bad lunch and one small dinner there. 2 visits just isn't enough data. On the flip side, we have the biased sample. This is a problem of sample quality. Here, you might have plenty of data, but it doesn't actually represent the whole picture. Let's look at a textbook example of a biased sample. Someone warns you, "Don't eat dinner at that restaurant. It's bad. My book club has met there once a week for breakfast for the past year, and they overcook their eggs." At first glance, that evidence looks rock solid. Going somewhere 52 times in a single year is a massive amount of data. But wait, they are judging the entire dinner menu based exclusively on how the kitchen cooks breakfast eggs. The sample is large, sure, but it's completely biased and totally unrepresentative of the dinner experience. Another fantastic example of weak induction is false cause attribution. This is where we forget the absolute golden rule of science and logic. Correlation does not equal causation. Just because 2 things happen together does not mean one caused the other. Think of a die-hard sports fan who wears a specific jersey on the day their team wins. Because of confirmation bias, they only remember the times they wore the jersey and won, and they start to genuinely believe the lucky jersey magically caused the victory. They've completely mistaken a simple coincidence for a cause and effect relationship. All right, Section 4, Unwarranted Assumption Fallacies. In this category, the logical trap lies completely hidden. Why? Because there is implicit, unjustified information lurking invisibly within the premises of the argument itself. We are going to introduce 2 heavy hitters in this category: false dichotomy, which is sometimes called a false dilemma, and begging the question. You're going to see these 2 popping up constantly in highly polarized political or moral debates, where people are desperately trying to force an issue into black and white terms.
A false dichotomy is a fallacy that aggressively forces you into a corner. It presents an argument by artificially limiting the available options, usually down to just 2 extremes, while completely ignoring any nuanced middle ground. It essentially assumes these 2 options are the absolute only possibilities that exist in the universe, and that you can't possibly be a mix of both. Take a look at this incredibly bold claim. A citizen of the United States either loves their country or they are a traitor. Since you don't love your country, you are a traitor. The structure almost sounds logical out loud, but the hidden assumption is entirely unwarranted. It artificially restricts the options to just 2 extremes. It completely ignores the highly common, very normal middle ground, the fact that someone can have deep, complex, and mixed emotions or valid criticisms about their country without committing actual acts of treason. It forces a totally false choice. And finally, Section 5, Fallacies of Diversion. Let's compare the 2 trickiest distraction tactics head-to-head. First, the strawman. This is where an arguer manufactures a fake, extreme version of their opponent's argument just to make it easier to attack, like claiming someone who wants border laws actually hates all foreigners. Now compare that to the red herring. This tactic completely ignores the core argument and simply pivots to a new topic entirely. It's like changing the subject to the price of bicycles when someone asks you to exercise for your heart health. It is pure, unadulterated misdirection. Section 6, Spotting Bad Reasoning. Congratulations, we have officially made it through the syllabus. We've covered relevance, weak induction, unwarranted assumptions, and diversion. Now, let's transition to our final review so you can actually take this knowledge out into the real world. Okay, I highly encourage you to take a mental snapshot of this fantastic cheat sheet right now. Consider this your personal toolkit for everyday critical thinking. When someone is substituting emotion for logic, that's a relevance fallacy. When they're jumping to huge conclusions based on tiny or weird evidence, that's weak induction. When they are forcing you into an unjustified corner, that's an unwarranted assumption. And when they try to change the subject or distort your words entirely, they are using diversion. So I want to leave you with this final challenge. The world is absolutely full of bad arguments, right? On the news, on social media, even sitting around the dinner table. The next time you feel yourself getting angry or defensive in an argument, will you just let yourself react with emotion? Or will you take a breath, put on your detective hat, and examine the crime scene for that missing logical link? The choice is completely yours, but now you have the tools to choose logic.